right, and we're live. Hello, everybody. Hopefully everybody gets here. By everybody, I mean there's a few people who I've come to always count on being here for our Good Board Ugly recordings, and yeah, hopefully we see them. And also, it's always nice to have all of the co-hosts that have agreed to be there. So, but Trent said he was going to be here about 10 after, so he's still got a minute here before we start that one thing that they had on The Office, the one where you is an app where you can send a text to somebody, and then the text also sends them a fax and an IMG and a pager and a all this other stuff. It's like for the people whose friends don't want to acknowledge them. So we could do that to Trent here in a matter of seconds. Hey, Tony! Tony's in the chat, Andy.
Oh yeah, no, we were talking on Slack, and he said he's
Dylan. Nice to see you, Dylan. Yeah.
Oh God, no! Must pause YouTube. Delayed talking. Brain explodes.
Yep, that's exactly. Oh, I didn't share the pop out chat link, did I yet?
I was just sharing a link on Twitter for the YouTube. We'll see how many trolls I can pull in this week.
Maybe there'll be people who say things like, have you ever heard of SawCon, Andy? Please respond. Please respond. Please respond.
Please. I'm the weird thing is I'm almost convinced it would be a former student.
Does it have to do with something about balls?
But I can't imagine that any former students I've had were clever enough to know enough about board games to come up with anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's working. Oh well.
Yeah.
That's what the block thing is for.
Mm-hmm. Well, Andy, I will be going back to work tomorrow. This is it. This is the last part. Andy, you are a robot. I can confirm this. Andy is a robot. He's not actually able to do the thing that they're having on every website where it says click here to say that you're not a robot. Andy, in all honesty, you can't check that box.
No.
There's a reason you're Andrew. It's short for Android.
That's not far off. I go to my therapist, I deal with or whatever. She's like, no, it's great because she's like, how would you describe your personality? I'm like, just shy of a Vulcan.
Not too
Other
far
people
off.
react emotionally, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Why can you not be logical?
Yeah.
My Chromebook can't handle YouTube and Google Hangouts at the same time. Therefore, I can't see the chat. So everybody say everything they want about me because I can't see it.
Well, I can give you a little thing here, a little link. I don't know if that'll help you, but there's a link to the pop-out, so it might be able to handle both of those because that's not actually streaming the video. I shared it just in our chat here. I was just waiting on Trent to get in so I could share it so that way he could see it too, but I'll put it again. That's okay.
No,
that should work.
Yeah, so we're actually playing 1817 now. That thing's insane.
Yeah, seems like
I've read the rules to short selling 5 times. I'm like, I don't know how to make this work. And the bad thing is, it's not one of those things that if you do it wrong, it just doesn't help you. No, it will start bleeding you if you screw it up.
Yeah?
Yeah, because if you short sell a company when the dividends are paid, if you have a short sold share of a company, you have to pay the dividends to the bank.
Nice. So you actually have to make payouts on short sales.
Yeah. So you've got to finagle it some way where you will buy low and sell high by screwing somebody up. And if you miscalculate that, it's bad.
Yeah. I played Tulip Bubble for the first time. Andy, have you tried that? Yeah.
I played it with friends once, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that one played for the first time.
The big thing I know most people have complained about is the end of the game. They're like, you can't predict it. It's not okay. Dude, that's a bubble burst.
No, I mean everything about the game that I could see like auction game fans like criticizing would all be things that are basically it trying to do whatever its theme is. So
yeah, it's like economically, yeah, no, they do that same crap in experiments. Basically, they give people like $100 and they get invested and do these things, and then yeah, if they don't pull out in time, they end up like leaving the experiment with no money.
Mm-hmm. So Andy, now that you've got all the time in the world, I heard that you were going to be starting a company and you were going to model the publishing model on Winsome.
Oh yeah.
So you're gonna
the funny thing in that is I'm like, halfway through the day, I'm like, how do I end up causing mass chaos when I was just
Andy's gonna go. You're gonna one up it though, dude. You're gonna go. You will only accept wadded balls of ones.
Yeah. Yeah. No, either that or like I will only make 10 copies of it.
Only make.
I'll make 10 copies of it, and it will be on lined college rule paper that I've torn out of a spiral notebook,
and handwritten.
And let's see what. Oh God, what could I use for cubes?
Well, whatever it is, it'll certainly not be painted.
No,
because
painted.
It makes no sense. It'll be local wooden dowels from a local furniture store.
Furniture plugs from Hobby Lobby, and they will just be all wood color, and they're whatever color you imagine them to be on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like, no, this is a purple wooden dowel that's not painted. That's a green one that's not painted. Oh, use gravel. That's best.
Yes. Have it be gravel, but have it be pieces that are drawn out of a bag, and they're all supposed to feel the same, but they don't because you're just buying like ounces of gravel.
Oh no! You know what I could do? This would be even more meta and weird, and I could make the Brockerian Ultra Cricket version from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I just send you a plain white box, and you imagine what the game is that's in it, but you can never actually open it to play it because the game is only better than everything else you imagine as long as you're imagining it.
a paradox box or a parabox.
Yeah, no, if you open it, you will then realize that what you have purchased for $50 is not as cool as if you just left it closed and never opened it.
Well, that's the old Schrodinger's cat, right? Schrodinger's board game.
Yeah, exactly. There may be an awesome board game in this box, or there may be cow poop. If you open it, you'll know, but half of you will be really disappointed.
So, Andy, I've got they have your thing already. They were selling them at Gen Con.
Cards Against Humanity, because didn't they do that?
Well, yeah, but you always knew you were getting bull crap on that.
Yeah, they said that. They were very upfront. So they actually do this, Andy. They have a board game box where you just buy, like, essentially picture a grab box of board games. I know it's a grab bag, but, sealed new board games, many of which are new releases that they have extra stock of. And this game company that is tied to Game Salute, who has like a ton of companies. A lot of people are very confident in them within the industry. They seem to have a lot of folks that are very happy with what they're doing, even though that like every time you just say Game Salute, it turns
there's a lot of people that just like cringe.
Yeah, it turns a form into a flame war.
With Game Salute, and it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Mine was okay until the last Sierra Madre shipments.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, it
was fine up to that point.
Which, by the way, I might have had one game somehow get lost, and it was PAX Ren. I can't find it anywhere.
Oh, man, that's rough.
In the move? Oh, no.
That one's like nigh unreplaceable at this point for like stupid money.
I put all of those, at least I thought I put all of those in bags and boxes that specifically went in my car. And I found John Company, and I could have sworn I put it in with John Company, and nope.
Damn, that sucks. Oh, that sucks so bad.
So hopefully it'll turn up in a box that we haven't opened, but I'm pretty sure I've opened every box by now.
Oh boy,
that's bad. Well, maybe he'll follow like recent models, and it'll like be an upgraded version available on Kickstarter next spring.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm going to be sacrilegious here in the sense that like the PAX game that's coming out next year, I actually think I'm going to skip it.
Did you do Emancipation?
Yeah, that's coming, but
okay.
They're doing PAX Transhumanity, and that's just a topic I don't care about at all.
Capitalism.
I don't know. The whole transhumanity thing drives me nuts anyway. It's just like, well, the singularity will hit, and this will all be blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whatever. You don't know what it's going to be until it's there.
Says Mr. Scientist.
Yeah. You can predict. You'll just be wrong on most of it. But.
Well, Isaac Asimov, if that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
Had a whole fiction series about predicting the future based off of numbers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, what was that?
The Foundation novels.
Yeah, no, I read them. I was trying to remember the name of the discipline. Psychohistory, I think it was. Oh, yeah, I'm that nerd. I've gone to deep levels. Oh, yeah, that was the best part is when you read, like, science fiction that's dated. So, like, when you read the Foundation series, everybody's like, everything is nuclear powered.
So I have...
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to change the subject. You have something else to add, man.
I said the best one is I read these series of, like, pulp sci-fi novels that were written, I think it was, like, 30s and 40s. But it's like, oh, no, look. They took all the metal from their spacesuit. You could only see the Bakelite left. I was like, oh, man.
Hey, there's Trent.
Hey, Trent.
Hello.
Welcome, Trent. We got a full panel here. Everybody who's going to be here is here, and so we're ready to get kicked off. You guys cool with this? We're a moving and a shaking. By the way, movers and shakers, movers and dice shakers is the name of the episode, David.
Am I dice shaking or am I moving?
Well, you moved and you're hoping to dice shake, right? Yeah. So
yeah. Sure, fair enough.
So
the boxes were like dice, and Pax Ren flew out of it
Yeah,
I realized like when I did the episode outline, which came in super late, that like I never did tell David what the topic was going to be, because I guess I just assumed it's going to be you because you're on here as a guest. But it's like so.
Remember, folks, we never claimed to be professionals.
No, anything but that. Yeah, I was like, I got this whole thing together like an hour before. I'm normally better than that. This one was bad. Like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't have any good experience.
Joe normally brings a much higher level of professionalism.
Very much so. Come to expect it from me. Yeah, usually much better than that. Especially during
transition correspondence courses, right?
Yes, I have been. I've really been brushing up on them. Really been working on the transitions.
Through the University of Phoenix, because quality.
Yeah, no, I've got such great transitions, guys. So,
you got anyway, the best transitions.
Do you guys what do you think? Like, we could get started. Like we
are behind me, and as the sun goes down over here, it's going to get darker and darker on my face. So I can either run and grab a lamp real quick, or we can just start and I'll eventually disappear.
Slowly disappearing as the episode goes on sounds pretty awesome. But if you want to grab a lamp, be my guest, dude. If you think it's a big deal, I mean, I think that you've got light in that room pretty fair with you.
Behind me. So the light you're seeing on my face right now is from the daylight, which will be gone soon.
You'll still have at least some of that ambient light from your computer screen.
Yeah.
I just need, for me, I have the special, like, the spotlight that's doing the halo on top of my head all the time. It's a way that you know that you can trust me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably trust Joe better than me.
Well, it depends. I don't know, Andy. You're usually pretty good about being up front. Mm-hmm. No, Andy gets pretty sneaky, though.
In games, it's the shaft.
All right, well, yeah, I've been working on my transition, so let's get this thing started. And now, moving on to the start of our podcast.
Don't worry, it wasn't a transition because we're starting.
Yeah, I guess the introduction. So I did recently redo the intro, and I did it to try to make sure that the sound levels were balanced, like the music and the spoken word, because for whatever reason, every time that I've like uploaded that, I feel like just over time, for whatever reason, the music just keeps getting louder and louder. And maybe I didn't notice when I made it the first time, but I redid them and tried to make sure the music was all quiet enough that you can hear the actual words. So, because I've heard that it can be kind of jarring when you're like listening in the car and then boom, the music hits like for one of our transitions. And
so you're trying to improve it beyond the quality of when my school had high school assemblies and had a local band play. Like of high school teens who don't know how to balance anything. So it looked like they were talking into their mics. You couldn't hear a dang word they were saying.
You couldn't actually hear them. Yeah, it's happened to us. I've been in that situation before. That like, is this thing on? Can anyone hear us?
No, it's good times.
All right. Well, 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, a podcast about board games. I'm the host of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, Joe Sallin, and I've got one replacement on tonight's episode, but he's somebody that you've heard from before. He is David Sandquist. He's joining us now from his new digs over there in Mountain Time, and he's going to be replacing TC Reed, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. I guess somewhat unfortunately, but what he's doing is kind of like helping the podcast by trying to get promos or get like giveaways for Munchkin the card game. Like whatever he's doing, I don't know if I could actually take what he said he was doing seriously. I'm still like not sure if he didn't tell me that to try to troll me. But anyway, TC says he's doing the Munchkin card game, and I just have to take him at his word for that. But he won't be here. Instead, we got David Sandquist. How you doing tonight, David?
Doing great. I guess I'm only half of TC because he's Pacific time or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'm almost.
Yeah, like you're one of like the 5 people that live in Mountain Time now.
Yeah. I directly relate to just them, so it'll be perfect.
Well, you can't even relate to like Arizona, right? Because they're like half the year they don't. There's like the disagreement for Mountain Time where like Arizona's like we would rather not have daylight savings time because it makes no sense. And from what I understand, they might have a point, might not, but
they have a point. I hate daylight savings time so much. So it's right up there with front lawns and pennies.
And the metric system.
No, the metric system would be better.
I know, but like I'm saying, I don't even remember. Like they call our system like the
English system.
Yeah, the English, the king system. So our measurement system. Definitely, some of those really great American innovations that were great innovations 200 years ago, and we're still stuck on that. 200, 300, 400 years ago. So
that's really great if you go to Ireland because they're like still transitioning. But like literally in most of the country, it's the metric system. We got off on like the rural West Coast and it was all in miles per hour. And all the road signs were in Gaelic.
Nice. Yeah. Like that's what I've always wanted to do. I've always wanted to like turn on the car radio and listen to Gaelic music and be like have the Gaelic road signs to go with it.
Well, no, the best part was we were driving along. There's just this big thing in the middle of the road that says "Go Mal," and I'm like, I think that means slow. So we slowed down. Yeah, there was like a 90-degree hairpin right over the hill.
So go slow, but it's like it almost makes you want to go like you mean go meow?
Yeah.
Right meow?
The best part is just driving in there. We thought we had been bad with like our rental car with like the small nicks and scrapes we got from the tiny roads.
Yeah.
But then my wife took it in and saw what all the other Americans did. We're like, oh sweet, we're getting our deposit back.
Yeah, driving can be pretty dangerous.
We still had mirrors.
Yeah, with knocking a mirror off of a rental car, I can only imagine you pay for that and some. So Andrew Dennison telling us all about the conversion of Irish roads from the old time measurement system to modern metric and the inclusion of Gaelic, which is actually what Andy's thesis was in.
I don't know, the way I write, it could be in Gaelic, English, Spanish. Who the hell knows?
I assume you're mostly typing in Gaelic on Twitter there, Andy.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Oh, Andy's spelling is hilarious, and that's where that joke was from. If anybody's never seen Andy's written
dyslexia
language,
is fun, people. Let me tell you.
Andy, you are such a creative speller.
Oh, dude, my wife continually hates that she told me that Middle English is a thing, where spelling is just kind of like as you feel. So whenever I misspell something, she's like, "You misspelled that." I'm like, "Middle English." I'm bringing it back.
You are the Geoffrey Chaucer on the road to Canterbury, making up spellings, and inconsistency is king in Andy's spelling. If a word has homonyms, expect to see those homonyms, and they will put hilarious images in the minds of anybody who is a reader and somebody who likes to take things literally.
And plus, if Andy's on Twitter, you've also got ad hominems too.
Yeah. You got the whole thing. Oh, rounding us out there, you hear from Trent Ham, who's here to join us. Trent, good hearing from you, dude.
Hi.
Welcome, Trent. Yeah, and Trent will be our Andy's spell check for today.
Was he gonna have time to talk?
Well, Andy, I kind of think, like, you might be one of those few people who, like, having your phone dictate what you say might be the best option.
Got it. You should see how bad it was before I got Grammarly.
Oh, you got that Grammarly, the thing they're always advertising? Like,
oh, yeah, no, that helps tremendously.
Why don't you use that, man?
That's the scary part.
Oh, my God. All right. Well, this shows that the technology is just not there yet, everybody. Sorry, Grammarly. They are not sponsoring this episode of the Good, the Board.
If you ever see me spontaneously use a comma right, that was totally Grammarly. That was not me.
Nice. So we are not sponsored by the Grammarly, unfortunately, because we will be, of course, at some point sponsored by them once the technology gets there to where it actually has an impact on Andy's spelling for the positive. But we are sponsored by Game Surplus, GameSurplus.com, an online board game store where you are going to find the same sort of courtesy and service that you get from a local person. Carmen, who runs Game Surplus, has been spreading love of board games long before he took the reins of Game Surplus. So if you enjoy what you're hearing here, make sure you check Game Surplus before you purchase your online board games. Purchase them to get shipped to your door. So also you can get some discounts here if you listen up to the little bits here later on, which hopefully I have balanced the audio and the music together so that you will actually be able to hear the spoken voice. That's always nice, hearing things. Sponsoring this episode of The Good, the Board, and the Ugly. So we review games. We have a topic, and today's topic will be what it's like to move to a new area and trying to find what an experience is moving into an area. And we have David, who has just recently done such a thing. Shame on you, by the way, David. I miss you so much. It's been, what is it now, 2 weeks? And Andy and Trent, they're great guys, but they just can't, it's just not the same. It's not the same. Now they expect me to play those games with them. And you used to be like the John Company guy, and now it's like, oh, I'm playing another round of John Company? David!
Please, no Monopoly revoked. I need this game to end.
We play with those rules, we'll be here all night. Oh, man. So we're going to be talking about David's experience incorporating into a new game group, and then we will be hyping games on our way out of the door. Reminders to everybody, and a thank you to everybody who's already submitted their responses for the current running contest that we have. that contest, I will let Andy tell you about it. It's kind of his little brainchild. So I will let Andy talk to you about it, because if you were to try to type up a post, you'd need you need an expert in Gaelic, right, Andy? Is that what we're going with?
Probably an expert in at least 12 different languages. I would.
And somebody who's just very familiar with Andy.
Yeah. Now what I should do is like write the rules myself and then run them through like 20 Google Translate sites and then put it on. That would be good. Okay.
It's still have better spelling.
Yeah, well, that's the sad part. All right, so the contest is we're kind of call it the House on Fire contest. So there's 3 games I listed on the contest, which God, I can't even remember now. Today's been bad. Joe, you had those up in the explanation, right?
I did an explanation on our last episode, so I mean I can
but anyway,
try to go over the rules for it this time too. If
so we have 3 games to choose from.
We have 2 games that we're giving away. We're giving away, and then you need to choose 3 games, right? You're having people choose 3 games.
Yeah, one of basically which one of the 3 games sitting on the table at the time did I grab and save?
Oh, no, so you actually gave 3 games?
Yes.
Oh no, dude! I thought I described this whole contest wrong. We hold on, everybody. Back to the drawing board. I thought you said like, look at my collection, choose 3 games that I'm going to save. That's what people are doing, man. That's what people think they're doing. At least that's what I thought they were doing, Andy. You're shaking the core of my being. I don't follow, man. I do not comprehend. Error.
Oh, yeah. No, that was too easy. What I did was I picked 3 games, and they had to choose which one of those 3 I saved.
Aha! So, everybody who's already sent an email or to goodboardugly@gmail.com, that is goodboardugly@gmail.com. If you have already sent an email, we will find a way to make that email count. If you would like to also get a separate to participate in the other way that the game has been described. Anybody who participated in the wrong rules, I'll still automatically add you in, unless you would like to participate in what Andy is saying, which is he's mentioned 3 games. Andy, can you say them here? Can we just say them out loud so that way people can just
brought it up.
Then...
I had the Word document. So the 3 games that were sitting on my table at the time were Alien Frontiers, Spirits of the Rice Paddy, and Tenner's Trail. So
no 18xx games, dude. Oh no,
Andy. Because I'm making it difficult. If I put Age of Steam and Alien Frontiers there, everyone's gonna know, like immediately.
Yeah.
So I picked 3 games that are in my like kind of like amusing middle world. Like I like to play them, but they're not always my favorite.
I'm pretty sure I could guess which one. I have a feeling I could guess. But I'm not going to, because I actually I played with Andy many times, and I think saying what I think it is would be a spoiler.
I think so too. I got an idea. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but I wanted to make it a little bit harder to guess, because if I pick like, out of my top 10 games, then everyone immediately will know which one is which. So anyway, these are games.
You get a 33% chance there. If you know literally nothing about Andy, you have a 33% chance of getting an entry. All the correct entries will get an entry into a contest, and there will actually be 2 winners. So there will be a first place and a runner-up. The only difference is the first place chooses their game first, and the runner-up gets whatever's left over, and that will be for 2 games, the new Steamrollers, as well as a copy of Wendaki. I hope that I'm saying that right, though. The kind of mid-heavy Euro that is about Native American tribes, and it looks really, really cool. I do not have this game, but I really want to get a copy of Wendaki. It is one that's one that looks really cool, and those will be shipped from the good people at Game Surplus. Yeah,
Joe, what was Murr asked? What was the email again?
goodboardugly@gmail.com. That's goodboardugly@gmail.com. Already have had responses, and as I said, we will honor all those responses, Andy. We will honor them, because I was the one who was confused. That is my fault. I think that the kind of nuts and bolts were still maybe getting settled when I first announced that. So apologies to anybody who is confused. But if you would like to participate in what Andy has now confirmed being the choose one of those 3 games and send an email to goodboardugly@gmail.com, you will get entered into that contest. If you've already entered, we'll count. Essentially, you can still do it for fun, but unfortunately, I can't give you an extra entry. That would not really be fair. So we will do it. The drawing for that and the announcement will be, I believe, 2 weeks from yesterday. So I think that'll be like August 29th or August 29th, so that we will announce it on the August 30th episode. So make sure you get those emails sent to goodboardugly@gmail.com. That is one of the 3 games: Alien Frontiers, Spirits of the Rice Paddy, or Tinner's Trail. Yeah. Which of those 3 games would Andy save while he lets the other ones perish to oblivion? And spoiler alert, it's the out-of-print one, certainly, because that's like Andy's one of those people.
No, I don't. I was trying to think, aren't all of those out of print?
He's just about to give it away. I almost made Andy just totally give the whole contest away.
No, I was just trying. I was like, wait, aren't they all? No, wait, I don't think Alien Frontiers is out of print right now.
I'm not 100% sure. But just so we don't accidentally fall into that hole of...
Hey, it's the one with some blue on the box cover.
I have a picture in my head, and they all are blue-themed games. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And none of them have paper maps, so it's not that easy.
Mm-hmm. It's a game that doesn't have paper money. I recently did play a game with paper money, though, and it felt weird. It felt very weird. So, yeah, let's go ahead and
cubes.
The game of cubes, yes.
The game with cubes, yeah.
The game with cubes. Yeah, if you'd be giving a little bit too much if you're like, it's a game with rocket dice.
Yeah.
That's too
it's
much.
A game
Andy
with cubes.
So just for comparison though, Tinner's Trail is a game that has, I don't think Andy has anything upgraded. You just have the game, right?
Yeah, and then the base game.
Spirits of the Rice Paddy, I think, did you make anything, or did you just
no?
Well, but I know that for
insert, but I'm not counting that as like,
So Andy has made an insert for Spirits of the Rice Paddy, and then for the final one there, Alien Frontiers, I'm pretty sure Andy has about $250 to $300 invested in that, so you could get every single rocket dice and everything. So there's just a little bit more information, but hey, maybe I'm just trying to mislead you. Yeah. So I will actually mislead you right into our review section, and we're going to go ahead and kick it off with David. You get to talk first, buddy, and you're going to be telling the world about a game that certainly people that listen to this podcast, and they're right here in the chat right now, it's live recording on YouTube, will be very interested to hear about. So, the new and beautiful... Was that you, Andy?
No, I was like,
Andy and our little girl.
Thanks, Andy.
Thank you. So, David, tell us about Brass.
Yeah. Recently got the deluxe copies of Brass Lancashire and Birmingham. The one that I'm mostly going to talk about is Birmingham, because I've played the prior Brass version before. I think they made some slight streamlined changes, very, very slight in Lancashire, but there is quite a bit different in Birmingham. I've only played it 2-player, but it worked quite well, surprisingly well. What worked really well about it, in my opinion, was instead of just getting rid of locations, I think there was a 2-player variant map made by the community for Lancashire that just kind of got rid of some locations. What they do in Birmingham, and I think they do this in Lancashire as well, I just haven't delved that deep yet, is they actually take out specific location cards. So if you know much about the Brass system, I guess you can call it a system now, you have location cards and then you have industry cards. The industry cards allow you, as long as you have a connection to where you're building, to build that specific industry in that area. The location cards allow you to just build at that location. So it makes it doesn't quite cut off locations from the map. It just makes them more difficult to get to. So in other words, it makes it so that the space for the 2- and 3-player game is smaller, but you can still, if you really need to, spread out to those locations that the location cards aren't available in the deck. So I really liked that. The other big changes that Birmingham makes is there's no variable cotton market. There's no randomness there. What instead does is it adds beer and very specific markets that you sell those things to. And you need beer to sell most of the different things, and it'll show on the different tokens if it needs 1 beer, 2 beer, or no beer in order to sell it. And you can base your developments off of that to get to those specific ones, or kind of planning ahead if you need more breweries or if the beer is already available, which is kind of interesting. The way that they flavored that into the game was that water wasn't always clean enough, and so they'd give the workers beer. And so in order for the workers to
can't trust the water,
do their work and transport things, you need to give them beer to keep them hydrated.
When I was younger, I once ordered a water in a bar down where I'm from in Keokuk, Iowa, and I was told that I was drinking the hard stuff. So yeah, you drink the beer because it's actually disinfected. So are we talking like a saison here, David? Is this going to be a sour? Is it all IPAs? Right? They're just such hipsters. There's such hipsters there in Birmingham.
Oh yeah,
man. All they drink is IPAs.
It's definitely a farmhouse that's been sitting probably in the farmhouse all summer, and here have this.
A nice farmhouse.
It's got a certain funk to it.
They're not millennials, because apparently, from what I read, they're like all about the wine.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, apparently it's like, yeah, wine is becoming like an issue to keep in stock because like so many people are drinking it now.
No, not all of us. Not all of us. Nothing against wine or anything, but no, it doesn't captivate me. It doesn't captivate this millennial. If I even can be called.
You can't make deliveries with wine. You need beer.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, exactly, Andy. You're just going to be using the beer to deliver things. Well, so this is like the beer represents paying the workers, or like it's you need this for the workers.
It's kind of like a resettable port, if you want to think of it that way. If you want to bring it back to Lancashire, where
it's like the oil that greases the wheels.
To get more beer, you can still deliver to the different ports that are out there, the different markets that are out there, and then they add goods and pottery as well to that, and they take away the ports and the ships, so they kind of replace those things. As far as the system goes, I think it's a more accessible brass. I think it'd be a great one to throw in every once in a while if you want to change from Lancashire with the heavy gamers. But if you got some people that aren't sure if they're interested in heavy gaming, I actually think this is a good one to introduce them into. It's actually not that rules heavy. There are quite a few things to explain, but it's a lot more open and accessible, in my opinion. At least it was in the couple games that I've played.
Well, that sounds cool, man. So would you say that people that are new to the system, should they start at Lancashire or start at Birmingham?
It could depend. If they truly are heavy gamers, they could probably just start where everybody else has started in the past, and that's the Lancashire. But there's nothing against Birmingham. I would play this one for sure. I'd switch them out just because it adds something different enough where it does feel like a different game using the same system. If you want a tighter, heavier game and they take out loans as well. Or not take them out, but they take out the part where you, towards the end of the game where you can't take loans anymore, so that you can't screw yourself at the end when you have all these cards and no money to do anything with them if you didn't plan correctly, like in Lancashire. But the way that they balance that is they take out the scoring for money at the end. No matter how much money you have at the end, you don't get any points.
Okay. Yeah. So it's not gonna get you in that situation where you're totally screwed because you let it go on too long. But at the same time, it's not going to be a gameable system where players can just use this to their advantage and get more points. So, I mean, it makes sense to me that you would just stop giving players points for money and allow them to get whatever money they need to make sure their dreams on the board will come true. Because that's what brass is really about.
Passing on those last couple cards because you can't afford anything.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's happened. That has happened to the best of us. Well, thank you very much, David. So what do you think in the long run? Like, what's your next game of brass going to be, and what do you think the next 5 after that will be? should you get a chance to play brass that many times? Will it be a mixture? Will it be Birmingham, or will you be back to Lancashire after the new hotness has faded?
Here's the thing, because you missed the real reason everyone backed this. The poker chips. How are the poker chips?
Oh my god! Poker chips.
I've actually got them right here to showcase one item that I'm kind of disappointed about. I knew it was coming, but let's see if you can even see this or not. It's probably too dark. In the ones that they include, they don't fill out the entirety of it.
Oh, yeah, really? Like, yeah, I know. I can
feel
that in my box. I've got mine here.
So, no, in that box.
Hold on. There's cheapo ones that are actually in the game. Like in the game itself.
I'm talking about the ones that are actually in the game that they don't.
They're cheapo and they don't fill out the rack,
so they can move around a little bit. The one that you're holding up, that one, the 100 set or whatever, that's really nice and it's all filled out and it's got all the stuff.
Mine's still in shrink. I'll open it now. Keep going.
Otherwise,
really nice chips.
Otherwise, the chips themselves, are really nice. I don't know how well you can see.
Oh no, that's pretty good view. Yeah, that is pretty nice.
Well, David, how heavy are they? I want to know how heavy they are. Give me, go get your coffee.
10 grams.
Give me the gram scale. Get me the gram scale, dude. I need to see it on the screen.
Okay, I will say is this, from my experience, the ones that are actually in the game itself are pretty light, whereas the ones in the extra set are much heavier.
So they're different. They're totally different manufactured. Like
I think they are.
Okay. Wow, I didn't know that. I haven't even gotten into either of my copies here. I've been so busy at work getting other games played and other games reviewed that I picked up at Gen Con that a lot of this stuff just kind of stuff that came in while I was at Gen Con just gets sent to the back of the list. So I'm really looking forward to it. Trent, have you had a chance to crack yours open and get it played at all?
I've cracked them all open and looked at them and read the rules for both and everything, but I haven't actually gotten them to the table, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, you know, you've got your 12-year-old now, Trent. Didn't you say he was asking about Birmingham or asking about brass?
Yes. I don't know if I'm ready to foist that on the Sunday night people or not, but he is interested, so...
Oh,
well,
dude!
If nothing else, I really do feel like Birmingham does a great job at the 2-player. We haven't tried the Lancashire with the new way that they do the 2-player and that yet, but it worked quite well in Birmingham. Yeah. If your wife is interested in brass,
she definitely is. She likes that. She's getting into that kind of game. She was a big fan of Container. I mean, that's the type of game she's getting into. She's starting to appreciate the economic games.
Yeah.
Next Arkwright.
As far as the poker chips in the game,
we'll see about that, Andy. We'll see about that. I'm looking forward to throwing wildcatters at her.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Your actual player thing is just slightly bigger than this, and they stack really well. So counting the money as far as round by round goes and figuring out who the turn order after that, it makes it a lot easier. And you can actually just kind of look at the stack and see it and count it a lot easier that way too. So if nothing else, they look good and they're actually very usable in this game at least.
They should have just trolled everybody and sent like giant tiddlywinks.
Just like
they should have just sent Martin Wallace money in there anyway.
Yeah, no, but like actually that big Martin Wallace money, that would be hilarious. No, it wouldn't. People would be so angry.
They'd be so mad. They would have a full-on riot. Iron cord thumpers, imported and warranted. Really cool looking box here. I mean, I feel like I'm going to have to find a way to use this box because it has a pull-out tray, that you can actually use, and then I can just discard the box itself. But like, what a nice box, man! What are you supposed to do with that? So, but these are pleasures. I got number 8,834. So yeah,
very important.
Yeah, I got in the 8s. I'm in the nosebleed section. So. Well, thank you, David. Though that was Brass Birmingham. The first look on that one on the Good, the Board, and the Ugly from our friends over there in Utah, in Good, Board, Ugly, Utah.
Yeah,
good old Ogden, Utah. So, and now moving down the list here, let's hear from Trent with his new game from Capstone.
Yeah, I briefly mentioned this on the Gen Con recap episode, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in depth here. I want to talk about Carthago, which is the newest released from Capstone Games. Carthago is lighter than most of their normal games, but not. I understand why they didn't call it whatever their light game line is. It's more
simply complex.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it in that, but I'd say it's lighter than like Arkwright or Wild Counters. Is definitely lighter than those. But it comes in a nice.
Connect?
That's probably the range you're getting in. Is something like that. But it comes in a nice small box, which is nice for your shelf. I guess it's not a giant box game. Okay, so in Carthago, this is basically comes down to a worker placement and card drafting game. Is in essence what it is. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to build this weird little, for lack of a better way of putting it, an engine of sorts. So, what you're essentially doing is you're placing your workers, and you're trying to you have all the cards in your hand. The best way to start it is with the cards that you actually use throughout the game. They all have a bunch of different uses. There's two types of cards. The cards that you use most of the time for money has like a type of good on it and also has an amount of money on it. So it might have like purple goods and worth 6 money, or it might have blue goods and it's worth 5 money, or something like that. They have different amounts of goods and values on them. And what you're doing with those is on your turn, you have a bunch of 5 different actions you can choose from. And essentially with all of those actions, you're either acquiring more of those resources or spending them to buy things that are going to eventually build towards better things for you. A lot of those are engine building oriented. So for example, one of the actions you can take, you can spend some of the cards in your hand to upgrade your little player tableau, like a Hansa Teutonica type of thing. You pay a certain number of resources to remove a little, essentially, worker from your board. And when you do that, it uncovers a spot that gives you more abilities. But at the same time, once that worker's removed, you can actually use it for things. You can place it on other shared places out on the board, including the worker placement spots. Okay. So the worker placement spots are out on this dock, and the places you are allowed to put workers out on the dock, you're saying this slot at the dock, when I take another action, is going to allow me to try to acquire the ships that are at that dock. And you use, like, one good might be bringing in purple goods, one ship might be, and so you play a purple card to take it. There's also another, and then once you take the ship, it gives you a variable player power, plus it gives you a couple more goods, because every ship has a certain value on it. So like it might say it's a value of 8. You pull cards off of the goods deck, and you look at their money value, and it's like Alhambra. You keep pulling cards off until you get to a card total that adds up to 8 or more. So if you pull off a 2, a 3, you're going to keep drawing until you get up to a total of 8 or more. So sometimes if you're really lucky, you'd be like a 2 and then a 5 and you're at 7. And then you pull off another card and it's got an 8 on it. You get 15 for that ship, and that's a really good deal. It's like just like when you start Alhambra, exactly like it. So you get the ships, and then the ships are part of your engine. They almost always have a variable player power on them. For example, one of the powers that I got owned by recently is one where you can use whatever kind of color card you want to take a ship at the dock. It doesn't matter what color card you have. You can just take a ship at the dock. And there's basically only 5 different actions that you can do. And there's 5 rounds in a turn, or 5 turns in a round. What's interesting is the cards in your hand, the good cards, they also have a third effect. They indicate one of the 5 moves you can possibly make. And you have to actually play the card in front of you to be able to do that move. So not only is it worth a good type of good, and it's also worth money, which you need to use to buy some stuff, the cards also represent the actions you can do. So the cards actually have 3 uses, and you have to the whole game, and that makes it interesting, is deciding which of those uses is better for each card. And the person that figures that out the best is usually the winner, is what I've been experiencing in the games I played of it. Because the game feels like there's a bunch of different avenues to victory, but it all comes down to smartly using your cards. Because, for example, when you're upgrading your little tableau in front of you, what you really need to do is collect sets of the same color. If you're trying to fill out the guild hall, which is like a shared victory point thing in front of you, you need to have cards with a high coin value. If you're trying to get ships, you need to get cards of specific colors. And those add up to variable player power. Those are variable player powers. So you're looking for different things depending on what you're aiming at. And at the end of the game, the victory points are really interesting. It's the number of ships you claim times the number of seats you have in that shared guild hall. So throughout the game, you're putting your tokens on the guild hall, and then you're trying to also collect ships, and you multiply the number of each of those you have together. Say you have 5 ships and 4 seats in the guild hall, 20 points. There's a few other points you can accumulate, but that's usually most of your points for the game. And that's really all it is. It's a nice, tight, feels like every choice is really important in this, because there's only 3 rounds of 5 actions each, so you've only got 15 actions to do your thing. It feels really tight, like every card needs to be used well if you're going to win. It's pretty straightforward to teach once you get all the pieces out on the table. There's a lot of meanness. It can be very, very mean. You can ask my wife. Yes. But it's a really solid game, and it's in a nice little box. I would say for my group, or for my wife and I, we would call it like a super filler, because for 2 players, you can play it in about 30 minutes once you know what you're doing. But it's one of those that adds about 15 minutes per player, I would say. So if you're playing it with 4, it's probably going to take about an hour, be my guess. I have only played it.
That's not a filler length?
Well, depending on who you are, I mean, you might view that as a filler. But that's generally the length of it. I think for the size, for the speed at which it plays, it offers a lot of interesting decisions. I really like the multiple use of cards. I like the tough decisions in determining how to use the cards that you're getting. There's a couple more mechanisms I really didn't touch on, but it all comes together really tightly, and it feels like every decision is really important. And that to me is a sign of a good game. My wife and I both immediately liked it. We both immediately replayed it several times in the last 2 weeks. One of the best games I picked up at Gen Con. And that's Carthago. Plus, it's not very expensive. I think it's 30. I'm not positive.
Oh,
I think it's 30 MSRP.
I was just looking, at least on Amazon. Yeah.
Does anybody know anything about what it does? Does it add things to the game that it was based on? Because I know that it's called Carthago Merchants and Guilds, and it is re-implementing Porto Carthago.
I am not familiar with Porto Carthago.
Okay. So the other question I had, like when I was at Gen Con, I had a great little interaction with the Capstone's game booth. I believe it's Tim who was there. And he taught me, well, he didn't teach me because he didn't need to, but I saw that they had the Estates there. And the Estates is the new Neue Heimat, for anybody who's heard of that and how the Capstone is reprinting it. But they are taking the Estates and making it simply complex. But Carthago is under the Capstone. Is it it's Capstone? Or is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Capstone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So
I feel like since I demoed the Estates and also played several full games of Carthago now, I can see why one is one and one is the other. I think that I felt the decisions in Neue Heimat were hard, but they were very straightforward. There were less things to consider with your choices. I don't know if that makes any sense. The choices were really hard, but you only really were like considering like one use of one number in essence when you're really thinking about it. With Carthago, there's multiple things to consider.
The simply complex line also seems to be something along the lines of like the rules are simple, but the decisions themselves have a lot of depth.
Yeah. Like I felt that the Estates had a simpler rule set.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. So, yeah, having played the Estates or Neue Heimat, yeah, I can see, like Tim explained it to me, and it's that it teaches in like 5 minutes, right? You got this like a super low bar for entry, and whereas it sounds like Carthago, Trent, you kind of like you struggled to get started with that, man. Like that was a how do I go about explaining this game moment?
Yeah, and I mean, I had a hard time thinking of how I was going to even describe this game. It's a lot easier to teach when you have the pieces on the table to point at. This is definitely one where if you have it set up, it's easier to teach because you can point, look at these symbols, look at these cards, stuff like that. Describing it's a little harder because it's got everything is so interlocked with it. It feels like you do one thing and you've turned a bunch of gears and now the game state's different.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's not like it's like you're completely randomizing the board every time. It's more like this is what I would imagine if you had Vitals and Lacerda make a 45-minute game, it would be something like Carthago.
Cool. Well, I want to get this one played. David, anything out there with your newer, cooler, shinier friends?
Not from this game.
Nothing about Carthago. All right. Well,
no.
Let's go ahead then, and I'll be ending this thing out. So instead, we'll hear a first impressions from Andy, and I have a comment to make about the idea of first impressions on this game in general. But I'll save that for Andy to actually tell you what the game is.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of give a first impressions on the new game out by Cole Worley. This through, is it Leader Games?
Leader Games.
Leader Games, which he works for now or associated with. And that would be Root. And the reason I kind of wanted to give a first impression on this is it's kind of out, new, shiny. And frankly, like, initially, like, I kind of dismissed it because it was supposed to it was being billed as kind of like a coin system game, but a little bit lighter. And I really liked coin system games. I'm like, nah, I don't need lighter. And anyway, the reason I think I want to give some initial impressions and revisit this later is I couldn't have been more wrong about it, like my initial thoughts. So once I started playing it, I'm like, wait, there's a lot here. This is actually a really, really good game. And that, I think, is really cool. That, I kind of had my initial impressions. My mind was a little bit blown by it because there is a lot of depth here. I think there's probably more asymmetry in this design than I've seen in coin games. It definitely plays a lot faster. And, yeah, each group is much more unique in what they're doing. And it does, or at least seems to do, and like I said, I'll kind of talk about this revisiting it again later, but what it seems to do different than coin is it often feels like in a coin game, you're building up to that one grab at victory. And if you fail to achieve victory at that point, you're probably not getting a second chance. If you miss that moment for whatever reason, be it card luck or you didn't plan well enough, but if you miss that moment, that's like it. At that point, your goal is really just to stop anybody else from getting that moment and see if you can win at the end game. But Root felt like there was coming back at times. There was ways like, you kicked out of here. Okay, I'll come back in over here. The only thing I think that you got to be careful with Root initially is that it's going to feel possibly very swingy in your first play or two, because one of the things we noticed pretty quickly is that each faction scores way, way differently. Not with the way they score, but with how they move up the point track. So for example, like Joe was playing a faction where they just kind of steadily progress up the point track. I was playing a faction that would like move up the point track, but then go negative points and then come back up again. And they kept like sliding back and forth, moving upwards. And Trent, who ended up winning that game, was like back at 0 when we're like halfway down the track. And then all of a sudden he's at the end and won the game.
Yeah, so Trent had like sort of slow ball faction where like once he's out, you've already lost. Like there's no, like everybody else, like you'd see their pieces flood the board at times and then be taken off on mass. But like with Trent's, like one single dude would hold up to battle after battle. I mean, just if there was ever a 0 rolled, there's 2 dice that are essentially D4s, but they're actually D12s that have 3 of each, numbers 0 through 3. And if either of those 2 dice rolled a 0 when you were fighting Trent, you automatically did no damage to him. It was like there's so much just pink every time. Well, we'd all be like, I'm gonna fight Trent, and you maybe get one like damage to him, and then he'd be like, oh, I've got this card that actually means I don't lose that guy, and it's like, wow. Or
well, the other thing is there's a few cards in it that are really powerful, and I think you can feel like that's like OP in your first game, but in reality, I mean, coming off of a coin game or something, you're supposed to play this kind of game more than once, and then the second time to watch for these things. Like, you'll sit there and go, okay, we can't let him have those territories, or it's going to be potentially bad. We can't let this person do this, because if we do, they're going to win.
You can't let the Woodland Alliance fill the board with sympathy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, or not even that, but I mean, each group kind of has its unique thing, and the game could feel very swingy at first until you learn what it is you need to do to check that faction, to keep them in check. And I think as you become more experienced, it's going to be a lot harder to just sweep your way to victory. There's going to be a lot more back and forth going on. But yeah, no, like, I absolutely want to play this game again, and I want to play several times. And the cool thing is I don't even know if I want to jump to a new faction. Like, I really almost want to play the faction I played last time again and see what we can do with it.
Andy was the Eerie, for anyone wondering.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. Like, I think that one in particular was really fun for like a heavy gamer, because you had to program into the future of what you were going to do.
Contrasting that with their other game, Vast, I felt almost finished with the game once I played the various roles.
Yeah.
But from what it sounds like from Root, that's you scratch the surface in the first couple plays or whatever, sure, yeah. And so it's got a lot more to it.
Take what's interesting with Vast, which is the mass asymmetry in the player boards,
sure,
and put that in a coin game, and maybe lighten the rules a little bit, and you've got Root.
Right. Well, and the thing that's going to
expansion, or was that just base?
I had the expansion. Yeah, she was playing an expansion faction, but she didn't have to be.
No.
She was playing as the Lizard Cult. It didn't go well for her.
Well, honestly, like, the Lizard Cult, like, I felt like I just didn't know what was going on until she's like, okay, I'm going to attack your guy. And I'm like, what? I thought that you were religious, like, in nature. You're fighting me, and that's not cool. Like, so, I really want to see what the Vagabond does. I kind of want to get some games of just those base 4 under my belt. But what I'd alluded to earlier is that my thoughts on this game is that you won't hear me talk much about it for a while. I can give you the same sort of initial impression that Andy has, but I really want to hesitate. I really want to cover this thing and give it what it deserves. And if you've gotten anything from Andy's first impression, this game is, like David said, the first 2 games. Your first game, you learn the faction and kind of scratch the surface. Different ones will have different levels of depth that you'd really take them to. And I think all of them do have like a sub layer. There are sub layers that you're peeling away. But really, what this does to make it kind of I don't want to say fix, but it sort of is, between both the Vast games, which, as you said, David, like, people play those, and once you've played as every faction, there's really not a reason to keep playing it. It has that sort of like ending that feels like the way that Vast feels like is
it's almost programmed for each one.
I'm this player, which means this player interacts with me, and I interact with this other player, right? Yeah. Like, it's like there's a certain like sort of like a rock paper scissors mentality to it, where it's just whoever runs out of gas first when they try to win, and the player who's their counterbalance doesn't have anything to give anymore to limit them. It has that ending, and that feels kind of like Munchkin, because it's like, the third person that really tries to win the game a lot of times is the one that ends up winning. But I would say Root has you you share a lot more DNA. You share much more DNA with other players. You've got the same deck that you're all drawing cards out of. These cards go to your hand. Combat works generally the same for each faction, though the special abilities are much closer like variable player powers than they are like, a totally different way that you interact with other players. I mean, like, if you are, for example, in Vast, if you're the warrior, you interact with the dragon different than you interact with the goblins, which is even more different than what you interact with the cave. Who's really kind of interacting with all of you. I mean, it's one of those where it's just like the interactions are different, and that makes Vast cool to experience, but not so cool in the long run. And I think that a lot of people find that, after you get a feel for it, it just kind of plays out, and you get that same sort of experience. Here in Root, you're going to have much more that you can count on from the very beginning. And anyway, I want to play every faction I will say before I even do a review on the podcast, it'd be like 5 plays. If I end up doing a video review, which I really want to, I'm thinking at least 10. There's just a lot of work that this game requires to give the review it truly deserves. So if anything like that, what I've said so far, I will have a blast getting to that point, but don't expect anything from me for a while on this game. Boom. And he
the only thing I think to add to that is Tony in our chat brought up, make sure if you play this with people, you're giving the right roles to the right people. He said he had somebody playing the faction I did, the area, which is all about sort of advanced programming, that it was he got kind of a lighter player getting that faction, and it just broke him. Like having to plan that much into the future. And I think one of the things that was kind of fun is when I initially started playing, I'm like, oh God, I got to avoid a collapse at all costs. And after like a minute, I'm like, no, screw it. Collapse. We'll do this. It'll be great.
Yeah, all those collapses. I mean, it was like your game over there, Andy, seemed just like by itself. If all 4 of us were to play that same faction, it would have been still a cool thing to watch people do. You know, just to watch us all sort of wrestle over the board and try to somehow keep our programming line from getting interrupted. It's like literally programming, because as soon as one thing is not right, your entire program just doesn't show up. Which is everybody who's doing programming knows the joys of when it doesn't show up, and you end up finding out after redoing it like 3 to 4 times that you had like a certain symbol that was 1 spot off, or you accidentally did the wrong type of slash or something like that. It's all the joys of that. But I know I'm making it sound like it's work. It's not. It's actually seems really, really cool and really fun. So yeah. Well, thank you, Andy, for that first impression of Root, and your guys' and Trent actually taught us that game. So I'm really looking forward to getting more games of Root in. Hopefully, we'll get another game in of Root, and we'll even be able to start that ball rolling, so I can eventually get to the point where I feel comfortable actually telling people about the game and actually like getting my bearings. But just if all you care about is my positive or negative, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs up, and that's our Andy's first thoughts, and then I basically gave a review after saying I wouldn't, but whatever. So now, because I said that, I'm going to give you a very short actual review for my game that I'm talking about today. It's going to be Steamrollers. Steamrollers is the Age of Steam plus a roll and write equals ? Game from Stronghold Games. It is a question mark for other reasons, because a lot of core gamers will look at this box and be like, okay, this $50, right? Okay, it doesn't look like a $50 game. It looks like something in the $30 to $40 range. If you buy this game, though, and you play it, you'll realize, yes, it's a quick game, but it's a game that has a lot of different options, and it has essentially the initial setup of Age of Steam, in which you get to see where all the cubes start at, that sort of cool puzzly feeling where you're trying to figure out routes in your head. Well, you're no longer going to be wrestling over those routes with other players on a shared board. Now you have your own board, but you are still going to be fighting over those same delivery cubes that are out there on the map. The actual big difference, though, is that instead of giving players control over pretty much every phase, where you have different phases where you build, where you deliver, and whatnot, the difference is that in Steamrollers, you can only take 1 action per turn, and that action is going to be dictated by a die. So you're going to be drafting dice, and then there is like 3 basic things you can do with every single die. And on top of that, there's a bunch of supplementary actions that are each tied to a single die, like a number 1 is a certain action tile, and number 2, and so on. And there's 6 of them for each, obviously, for each face on a D6. And these will sort of change your game. And then from one game to another, you can play with different variants on these sort of supplementary actions. The whole while, you're, of course, still playing on a shared map that is always the same, because you have pads that you're riding on. Just in general, my thoughts on Steamrollers, which you can hear elaborated in my video review series, The Sound Coefficient on YouTube. My overall thoughts are that it is like a legitimizing argument for roll and write games being more than just a small family filler type genre. This is really pushing into what type of things can we have players do when we give them their own board to ride on. And I think that this is a fantastic exploration of root connecting on a very like palatable, small scale. This game, like I said, 30 to 45 minutes, and it just moves along. It chugs along real quick. It's one of those where you just got to play this game. You got to play it, and you know what? Go into it with no expectations, because if you go into it with really high expectations, I think you're going to be like, oh well, it feels derivative, and I think that's an argument you could levy against it. But it definitely mixes together things I've never seen mixed together before, and it does so where the product is something new. It's something very slick and well-oiled, works very well. There's a ton of variants in the box. And the thing I like, I would say maybe the most about replayability for this one is that the map itself is always the same, but like there's 12 different walls that you can play with that are each different games where it'll block off certain areas from each other, and that by itself makes it like an Age of Steam map that has essentially 13 different ways that you can play it. By itself, that's a very cool thing to make each game different. So that's my overall thoughts on Steamrollers. And I want to do quick plugs for other games you might like in my video review series. Once again, that's on the Good Board Ugly YouTube channel. The Sound Coefficient is the playlist. You'll find all these on there. Recently, I have done the Deckscape Heist in Venice, of course, Steamrollers. I've done a couple of party games, the Brady Bunch party game. You'd be surprised at what I say about that one. Happy Little Accidents, a Bob Ross drawing game. The game Drop It, a dexterity game, and as well as Near and Far Amber Mines. And there is more to come, provided that that I have the energy for it, and that I feel that there's going to be a group that appreciates it. Because I am about to start tomorrow back to teaching again. Tomorrow is my first day teaching. Andy, don't say anything. Just shut your mouth. But I'll be busy, but I can still pull these things. I still make these things work, and I've got a lot that are in the pipe still. So if you really want to hear these things, you want to see them, and you want them, make sure you get on there and support my videos. So come to the video channel because I asked you to, but then stay there because you like what I'm putting out. If you don't like what I'm putting out, let me know. Let me know about those things. I want some feedback.
If you don't like it, just come on, click like, go away.
Absolutely. Give me the views, give me the thumbs, then move on to your next project.
Subscribe.
And please subscribe. Actually,
buy my merch.
Whereas I'm saying this to a group full of chatters that are certainly all subscribed, and it always it warms my heart to see responses. I get to know you that share in with this community. It's still small enough where I know everybody. So it's as I tell people, it's the media, the board game media that's in the perpetually before it was cool state. Thanks, David. Thank you for validating that. It's
you're welcome.
All right, man. Well, so Steamrollers, Andy, you wanted to play this one, but didn't get a chance.
Yeah, no, I actually do. A lot of people I know that are kind of into the Winsome-esque world and all that really have liked it. And yeah, I definitely want to try this at some point.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Trent, have you ever tried Steamrollers yet?
Nope.
Oh,
I'm not.
Darn. I think it's a good one to try, man. I mean, if you don't think roll and rights would work with Age of Steam, gotta try it. Gotta try it and see what you think. Nothing out there for you, David?
Nope, I've just watched your video on it.
Thanks, by the way. Yes, you get 2 gold coins, 2 Good Board Ugly gold coins, which I will send a postcard to you. It will be sent sometime in the future. Some nebulous time in the future, so that way I can just keep on putting it off, because that's what you do when you offer.
Coins. That's why I bought yellow filament for the 3D printer.
Absolutely, yes. And we'll eventually get to that point, but what we like to do here, Good Board Ugly, is to promise things to our audience, and then by the time that it comes time for us to deliver things, we just make new promises. And of course, those
so we're running like the government now.
I was waiting on the Trump joke, but
the low-hanging fruit, Andy. Good job, man.
Well, I don't have any trolls today to distract me.
So you're having to fill it in. Well, no, I get it, man. Somebody's got to do it. It's a rough job. Somebody's got to do it. So let's go ahead, David, and turn the mic over to what has your experience has been. I know that since since we've last seen each other in person, I think it was actually like it's been almost a month now because I had to like take off.
You went on
early.
to some like conventions or something.
Yeah, I was out there I was out there having so much fun and playing so many board games at Gen Con, which is not true. I played like not like one game the whole thing at Gen Con, and it was like a light family game. So yeah.
So you did like the late night werewolf thing.
That precisely, yeah. That's what I stayed up till 5 a.m. for, Andy. Was that game of werewolf, man.
Or what was it the year where they were like shouting weird things across the hall and tearing up Candyland cards or something? I don't know.
There was some sort of game that they were playing where they were passing cards around to random people.
Yeah.
Some sort of like game that you played there that was like supposed to be viral, but I don't even remember what it was.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I actually didn't see that when I was at Gen Con. So unfortunately, I did not get to see that. So my whole trip to Gen Con, obviously a waste. So David, while I was at Gen Con, you were unpacking boxes.
Yep, packing and unpacking boxes, which moving your collection, and mine isn't nearly what I've seen out there, but I've got quite a few games. Is interesting because I feel like I pack a box and then I bring it out to the truck and I'm making some headway, and then I feel like the next day there's still the same amount of stuff to pack. Nothing actually got done, and I just keep going from there. But what I learned from moving games, because we went about 1,000 miles, was adhere to the heavy games on the bottom, lighter games on top, and get sturdy boxes. We actually had movers help us load the truck because it was just myself. My wife moved out ahead of me. And they did a great job of stacking things. And I was so concerned that the weight of the top boxes would smash the bottom boxes where all my precious games were. But for the most part, they all survived. I haven't seen any real damage. I'm just missing a box of games that happened to have PAX Ren in it.
Oh.
See, I'm like,
it probably got
one of the irreplaceables that I tried. I thought I put it in my car because I put a bunch of other games that were like the irreplaceable games in my car, and I thought that was one of them, but apparently not. So
but it probably got sent to Trent, and he's going to sell it, and then tell everybody that it's totally cool that he sold it because the company said it was fine for him to sell it because he just got this extra game shipped to him.
Or it ended up in Australia.
with my bid for up front.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where's my up front?
No, that's better than me. Like, I am the worst person to have to pack for moving because my brain goes to like items should be with like items. So I just like fill a box full of books, and then like people die trying to move it.
Yeah, my wife did a couple of the big boxes with books in them, and I had to take them out and put them into smaller boxes because it would take 2 people to lift a couple of those boxes.
Yeah, the way we solved that, though, we had to move in my school, like when we moved into the new building. We took the last 2 days of school and just like used student slave labor to move them all.
Yeah, it's so great to just have the kids help you do things.
That's what they're there for, right?
Yep. Well, and they all love it, though. We got like shopping carts from local grocery stores when we had to move from one building to the next and had kids do this over.
Have a good time.
Break. Yeah, grand old time. And you didn't have to be in school.
Typical 8 boxes or more of pizza waiting for them.
Yeah.
I don't think I think that they had some sort of a food or something that they'd had provided, but like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like the only people who actually got food were people who weren't helping. It was one of those types of things, where like there were like it was either you helped or you ate. And so like the good kids all just went hungry, and then all the kids that were like actually got food were the ones that were like, screw helping, I'll just go grab food.
See, we got revenge on them at my old school because we took them out to like a Y trip or whatever. So after they had their like crappy lunch meat school lunches and we're swimming, we ordered like pizza, and then we're just like overly enjoying it in the window while they all watched.
Andy, maybe it's that middle school aspect of you, or maybe it's just best this way because it sounds like you just love too much getting the last word, like winning arguments with kids. Like maybe that's because I'm a high school teacher, right? Like if a kid wants to argue with me, like whatever, dude. Like, you know, arguing is not a game I play in this room. But like Andy's like, oh no, I will win by eating the pizza because I am here on the hierarchy. You are here.
Yeah. No, they always
doing low, high, and low. By the way, that was great visuals for this audio podcast.
Oh, what was the other one? When they're like, you know, I'm gonna get the last word in. I'm like, no, you're not, because I always get the last word and go to the principal's office.
Of course, yes, yes, Andy, that's classic, dude.
Well, it's because the state won't let me put them in boxes anymore.
No more shipping them to Abu Dhabi. No more Garfield.
Yeah,
too bad.
Apparently, that's child abuse. No. All right. Anyway.
So, David, all of your games got there in one piece, except for PAX Renaissance, which already has a history past of disappearing and popping up at the wrong person's doorstep. So that's just, you know, PAX Renaissance up to its old shenanigans. But you have you had a chance yet there in the Northern Utah Gamers Guild, which is abbreviated as the NUG. Pretty nice acronym there. NUGG NUG.
Yep. Their first meeting since I got here was actually the same day that we got the moving truck here and we're unloading. So I didn't get to do that, but they have the next meetup is tomorrow evening, so I can't report on that. But
what you should have done is had them all out and convince them it's a logistics game /LARP.
Yeah, then maybe PAX Ren would have showed up.
Yes. Though, in all curiousness, like, how was volume-wise? Because the thing that I always kind of fear about moving my board game collection is, like, that it will actually take up more space packing it. Because, board games, I mean, when you get them on the shelf, they're never, like, designed to be as space-saving as possible.
Yeah. I don't know how many games that I'd have. I'd say it's sub 100, but it's close to that number. And yeah, the boxes that I packed were probably a third of, or even more than a third of the boxes that were put in the loading truck.
Yeah, this is why I tell my wife if we ever move, we have to be able to afford professional packer mover peoples, because I'm not doing it otherwise.
Well, that's what we did. We had the professional packers pack and unload the rental truck, but we actually drove it.
Oh, okay.
None of my family would let me do that, so we're safe.
So, in the transition, what are some ways that you are what are some ways in which you're trying to sort of branch out into this community? What are you finding is the places that the gamers are lurking?
I've gone to quite a few of the different game shops already out here. Some of them are actually pretty well catered towards board games, but a lot of them are the comic book card shops that, we also do board games.
Yeah.
There's a couple one's in Ogden, one's in North Ogden, that I talked to the people there, and they said, yeah, we're looking to get a game night going, but nothing's really started up yet.
Do you want to start one?
No kidding. They have these awesome play spaces, but then you can tell that they're for the card games, the Magic and Pokemon and whatnot. One of them, I'm fairly certain that they are getting close to trying to at least get something going. But I think a majority of the gaming here is done through the Northern Utah Gamers Guild guys and gals, and they meet outside of game shops. And I think that might just be a time constraint thing, maybe a table thing, because they're actually quite large. I think they typically have like 30 to 40 people show up, and the game spaces for the stores that I've been to, it would probably barely work. You could do 30 to 40 people playing Magic the Gathering. You can't do 30 to 40 people playing games that take up an entire table with just 4 people.
Or, God forbid, 30, 40 people doing Warhammer or something. God, the amount of space you would need.
So
one thing I'm kind of curious about, because this is something I've thought about, is are you going to try to, cater a different style of game or try to get different things played? Because one of the things I've thought about if I were to move to, say, like a bigger city or something is whether I would look for a general game group or maybe just try to find like an 18xx group and just do that. Yeah. But like, have you thought about that at all? Or you just want to see what's around and where you can kind of fit in?
Well, my first thought is just heading to this event tomorrow and kind of finding out what all's there. And it sounds like it's a pretty wide range of games that are played, from very light to very heavy. Even sometimes some 18xx games, but those, they said, are usually pre-planned. It sounds like Brass is going to get played, which is one of the reasons why I kind of played the new version, so I would have a heads up and not be the new guy like stumbling around and I don't remember how to play a location card. What does that do again?
Yeah. But yeah, I swear I've played the game before. You're just going to have to run through the rules real quick for me right now.
I don't remember this. What are these beer kegs? What is this game? Brass? I don't remember beer kegs and Brass.
Oh, you mean all of my canals are going to go away?
I was counting on those.
Mid-game reset. It's what people like Brass Lancashire for, people. Just get with the picture. Enjoy the game for what it is. So, yeah, it's interesting. Like, when you go to this first event here, David, tomorrow, how, like we talked about game boxes before, how are you going to stack your game box? Like, what is this? Is this an opportunity for you to be like, here's all my favorite games? Or are you going to try to bring things that you hope that will see, that other people will see and be like, feel like a bit of comfort, maybe a bit of a shared, you know, like that you're part of the same group because you bring your sort of like mass market. I don't say mass market, right? But your more mainstream games Monopoly, that you expect to see.
Risk.
Exactly. You know,
the mainstream games, you know,
the classics.
Well, or the other thing is, like, I've read a couple things where people are trying this, and there's a real big debate on, like, if you're the new person, do you bring games at all? Like,
yeah.
That's what I was thinking too, and I'm probably not going to bring anything, to be honest, on this, and I'll just kind of let the people that are already there and established dictate what goes on. That way, I can find out, you know. If somebody presents a game, obviously, that I'm interested in, they might be interested in more games. If I bring games and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll try your game, and then that ends up being too heavy or not their style, well, now I haven't met people that want to play the same types of games that I want to play necessarily, and I'm down a night of trying to find the right group or whatever for that. So I'm actually kind of thinking about heading out there and just kind of looking around and seeing what other people have, and then fitting myself in to whatever games that I'm more interested in, meeting the people that are interested in that, doing it that way. So,
well, and sometimes those like large groups that are a lot more formal, like actually have like a system for picking things out, or you know, like you actually have to get on a list or something so that the games get rotated fairly. Like I don't know if they do, but I've heard of larger groups like that kind of having some systems in place so that it's not you show up at every
BGG guild that I've kind of stalked for the past month, and now I'll actually get to go. And for the most part, what I've seen is people say, hey, I'm interested in playing this game. Hey, I'm interested in playing this game. Or, hey, I'm bringing these. Anybody interested? Yeah. And so I guess that kind of gets the motion going as far as how it actually gets done, or if there's really pre-planned games, none that I could see or know of yet.
Yeah.
But
I just can't imagine 30 people standing around playing the what game do we play next game? Dear God.
And I can't do what I've done in
because the problem, Andy, is that you don't want people to be left out. And when you have 8, there's just much easier chance of that. Whereas with 30, it's like, you know, once you get from 30 down to 8, it becomes the what game are we playing game. But until then, like the first few games to go down, it's like there's 30 of us. Who cares? You know, well, I'll put something down
on the table. People join. Yep.
Yeah, and I would do it just much more freely if there wasn't, you know, that odd chance that you know a player is being kind of more reserved because they have a specific game they'd rather play, or they have a game that they're trying to avoid. There's a lot of that sort of, you know, there's a lot of motivations that you just can't see in that situation but I agree with you 100%.
If everyone would just show up to game night understanding that odd games about the East India Trading Company are the best games to play, it would be fine.
Maybe I should just bring John Company and see who wants to me.
Yeah. Just bring John.
that would send a message. I don't know what message, but
or if it's a good message.
It could be good. It could be bad.
Well, bring your copy of John Company, and then while you're playing somebody else's game, be looking through it too. That's always like
Reading
looking through your
book.
game
Yep.
while you're playing something else. Like you're really gonna win friends
when
there.
I got talked into playing Orleans or whatever. I was reading the rules to like Pax Porphyrion at the time.
Nice, Andy. You're making yourself come off real classy there.
Oh, I hate that. Well, to be fair, I only did that halfway through when it was like I didn't get the buildings I needed. I feel like I'm out of this already.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't do it at first.
Sometimes you might even bring a Kindle, especially if the game that you're playing will go on for maybe, let's say, 3-4 hours after you've hit that point in the game when you realize I'm not going to win this. I don't really care to keep playing, but I'll still sit here. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, like, what was it? Oh, you put on Twitter at Wednesday game night. I don't remember what game. You were like, so short, we played it twice. I'm like, oh, like 3-hour game? Oh, that's
well, yeah, like that's Steamrollers, actually. It's like it's got this, like, every sheet is double-sided. And so you play, and then oh, I forgot to mention this in my review. Well, you hear it now. You play, and then you just want to play it again and flip it over, right? And so I was checking in the description of what the box comes with, and it's like it says 200 game sheets, but that's 100 double-sided game, like, pieces of paper.
Oh, God, that's a lawsuit for false advertising.
That right? Yes. You just cannot trust them. Cannot trust Steven, Stronghold Games. Seriously, 100 double-sided and 200 are different, sir.
Well,
yes,
hey,
you have.
It's Indie Game Designs now or something, right?
It is something like Indie Game Studios, I think, because it's an indie board and card. Yeah. By the way, congratulations on the merger. And if you're wondering why, there's a great, very recently posted Board Game Geek news. Stronghold Games and Indie Board and Cards has merged to become Indie Game Studios. I believe I'm getting that name right. But the way that Steven worded it, like just trying to consolidate to try to keep competitive with the with all the consolidations happening. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, you don't want to be competitive. You just want to be competitive enough. Asmodee wants to buy you out.
Which I'm pretty sure Andy will be up for.
Andy's or be so competitive that you only take money orders and produce games.
God, I don't want to start.
I'm pretty sure Andy, you will get the offer first for an Asmodee buyout before like half of the game companies that you follow.
That's
from
probably
your print and play on in your kitchen.
Yeah, they'll buy me out. She'd be like, you do some awesome print and plays. We want to purchase you."
Yeah, we've seen your print and plays. We want to purchase you now. We now
actually made
your kitchen table.
I made that joke actually with Katie from Katie's Game Quarter posted like a big box, and she's like, "Oh, might be a little friend in here." And I put on Twitter, "Oh, I've heard about this subscription service for podcasters where people just like ship you players so that you can get your reviews done on time."
So Andy's going to start a new startup company. It's deals lightly in human trafficking, but mainly it is about getting you players to play your games.
We'll call it like Playtester Crate.
Slightly.
It'd be like a crate service. You get a random 4 players every month.
Got the 18XX crowd.
Oh yeah, just pick like stock game stores and I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll work out the details.
Yeah. More in the works. But don't worry, Andy will get the details better, and we'll have it. I'll put it in the pre-show notes. I'll be able to tell everybody about
What's international shipping on people like these? No, this is bad. I'm not going down this road.
Well, Andy, keep going, Andy. Keep going. I want to see where this ends.
Well, someday I need to get a job as a school teacher again, man.
Yeah, well, not anytime soon. So hopefully by then everybody will have forgotten this, man. No, it takes a lot more to cultivate gamers than just buying them online, unfortunately.
Especially playtesters. You got to have some certain amount of masochism in you to want to do that, I think.
Yeah, masochism, a.k.a. patience. So David, all in all, like the coming into the like what you've done already. You've done some feelers now, and we're going to hear from you again in the future. But for right now, like it's largely been going around to different game stores and kind of taking that initiative, taking that first step. That difficult first step for many people. I mean, there are many folks. I was just hearing some correspondence back and forth with an individual who was telling me they didn't want to attend any of the conventions this last summer because they prefer conventions to be 30 people or less. And I was like, you don't like conventions. Actually, you don't even like large game groups. You just you want like your family and close friends, and that's it. And you just limit it at that. So
my convention happens weekly in my basement with my 4 good friends.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, same game, same group. So in terms of how you get to the point where like you finally get your games played, whatever your games might be, like that'll be interesting to hear more of an update down the line. But it sounds like so far you've had that similar experience to what a lot of us have had. I know I had to a certain extent the same experience in when I moved here to the Ames, Iowa area. There wasn't really any there's some like light organization at one of the local game stores, like an ongoing game night that was very well run, very well maintained, was very welcoming to new players. And then that was it. Part of what we did was kind of start that up. So, I mean, when interestingly enough, my brother moved to a place that's literally right behind a game store. Like he lives behind a strip mall. That's like, there's a game store there, like obviously like this would be like the place for me to live. Like I would just build a zip line. Because he's up on a hill. I would just build a zip line, just for me to go straight into this game store.
I feel like, with your brother, not disparaging your brother, but he will be less appreciating of that than you would by far.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's gone to it a couple of times, but the problem was like there was no organization of the tabletop aspect of the community. It was very much like a competitive card games and Warhammer.
Yeah.
Warhammer and Magic are what keep that store alive, and I don't think that's
what
wrong
keeps
that way.
Most stores alive, really.
Yeah, they have pinball tables there too, but just so I can, the reason I'm saying that is since then, I actually know the guy through a different convention I've attended. The one that's actually right there where my brother lives, a smaller local convention. But a guy that I met there actually runs a game night that started between the time my brother moved in and now. So, I mean, these types of things are popping up. It might be you, David, you, the newcomer, that's like, hey, I'm the face of this game store on this game night. Maybe that'll be one of the ways you can carve out a presence in this new area. Yeah, big smiles, get T-shirts made. So it's the thing is, these are things that you can make happen, right? And people will come, right? It seems like it's a very open location to gaming, but to a certain extent, it's kind of like when what you said sounds like there is an organization, and a lot of times when you have this type of organization, they'll have like a subscription that you pay, and they'll have a venue that's rented. And maybe even a game library to be able to rent from, so that way you don't have to always bring your games. You can actually just count on there being the staple games there. I mean, there's a lot of times
actually try a game without having to buy it,
which is it's beautiful. It's great to be able to do that. And a lot of times these are services that they keep to the group because they want you to have to pay and help to be a paying member of the group, right? And so you might not hear anything about it until you've gone and attended, right? So I mean, the infrastructure for gaming would just be so different in every place. So I look forward to hearing what the Nug is like. But it's interesting that you found kind of that similar environment outside of the organization that you know about. That a lot of us have encountered, even if we're social enough to go to a place we've never been to and ask, about a hobby that most of the time the person behind this counter just kind of like stares at you like, oh, you mean those games? Those games? You don't want anything here in the display case? You don't want any of the singles? You don't want like painting supplies? You want those games?
Well, the other thing though that's kind of cool about it is at least like if you're into board gaming, it gives you something to connect with the community with, like kind of an inroad. Mm-hmm. So if I ended up moving somewhere, like for me, that would be nice, and that I have something I could try to connect with. Just because like, being an extrovert and wanting to be connected is cool, but being like socially awkward, like when I lived in, Southwest Iowa, for example, I wasn't really into gaming then, and I had no idea how to connect to the community. Like people would be like, it's like, oh, do you want to watch the football game? And I'd be like, no.
They're gonna make an 18xx game. It's like
put the ball down the pitch.
Well, turns out I never had to watch them anyway because my neighbor would yell so loudly I would know every play anyway. But I mean, it does give that inroad, like, and because one of the things I've learned through gaming is that I'm actually an extrovert, not an introvert. I just got to be in a situation where I sort of understand the social rules. You know, we had new neighbors moved in, and my wife was like, "Oh, did you go say hi?" And I'm like, "How would you go about doing that?" Whereas, like, a game night, I'll show up and immediately, like, I feel like I know these people, I can talk to these people. And it's nice to have an inroad like that gives you a way to kind of go out and meet people that's not Tinder, because that's creepy.
We should make an app, the Tinder for board games. You swipe which kind of games that you like, and you might match with somebody.
I'm looking to play Brad.
And then you go and you play the games.
Actually, like swiping right or swiping left on board games and having an app that does that matches you with other people in your area.
That might actually be beneficial.
It's too specific to work in our remote area, but like if you're in a place like the New York City or the San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles, this could be something. This could really be something. So, Trent, I haven't heard from you. What about Trent? I think that in your experience, it's been kind of rare that you've ever had to reestablish yourself in a new gaming scene.
Yeah, the last time I really had to do that was about 1996.
So 22 years ago, what was the way that you went about it? I mean, it's like you walked into the shop and said, "Hey, could I buy that Black Lotus?"
I mean, in essence, that's what I did. I moved to a new town and I went to the local game stores, of which there was 2, and I kind of just found out everything that was going on at one of them, and eventually I found Board Gamers. That's what I did. I mean, it worked in 96. I mean, people were playing Manhattan and Settlers of Catan, and what else were they playing back then? That's the 2 big ones. Formula D. Yeah. Those are kind of the games that people at the shop were playing back then. There were a couple of people playing like Avalon Hill games, but they were kind of a insular group. I guess everybody playing it.
No, not Avalon Hill games.
Yeah, I mean, they had a game night there, and they'd always be playing like Dune or 1830 or something, and like no one joined them, and it was always the same 5 guys. And then there was other people playing stuff like 90s era Spiel des Jahres winners, El Grande, games like that. That's what I found when I first moved to town.
Well, and with sort of modern media between Meetup and Facebooks and all that, like, it's probably, I would think it'd be a lot easier to actually find a game group than it probably used to be.
Yeah, if it wasn't for looking on places like Reddit and Board Game Geek, I wouldn't have really known about the Northern Utah Gamers Guild at all. I think I tried to look at Meetup, because that's how I found the one in Ames. Was Meetup, and I just showed up at a Wednesday night again with no games, just kind of wandering around.
I remember that we
Joe like, "Hey, come, you're playing this."
Yeah, the internet's been great for like making nerds feel not isolated in their small towns.
I do kind of question, though. I mean, like, because Trent, the way that you describe it in 96, I know that the population of gamers would have been much, much smaller to draw from. You know, there's way less people, or there's way more people playing games now. But I think that, like, you know, when you look at the game stores, it's probably not that much more people in game stores necessarily, because at least my theory on it is that so many people can connect without that game store. Like, the game store is no longer the same function as a hub. When we have, you know, like the nice thing is, David, you're moving in this age in which you have the ability to hear about the Gamers Guild through, Board Game Geek and Reddit. So,
well, what I'd say is this: my experience has been playing games in the Ames, Iowa area. Is that over the course of the years, I found that there would be a group that would get going really well. Something would irritate them and drive them apart, and some chunk of them would go to a private game night at someone's house. And then the loop would start all over again, and it would happen about every 18 months or so. There'd be this consistent group of people showing up, and then something would happen and they decided that they didn't want to do it at the shop anymore, and some group that they found that they really liked of 4 or 5 people would just start meeting at people's houses. And then it would repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat.
And so like every 18 months you're kind of like displaced if you're one of the people who comes to the shop.
I don't know, that kind of makes sense in a way though, because as the hobby grows, like, because I think a lot of people show up to a game group, and if they kind of stick with it, they eventually start sort of like a lot of people traveling down one path or another of gaming and preferring this or that. And, you know, I think it's very natural if you get, 4 or 5 people that really like this style of game and they feel like they're being put out by having to play other kind of games, for them to just break off and do that. I don't know. Like,
I'll admit I dove off into 2 or 3 of those groups, and then they would last for a couple of years, and then they'd die off. And that consistently happened. Like, people would move, and then eventually, like, it'd be down to 1 or 2 guys.
You need more input in order to sustain that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is that when you become that private group, you know, that's just composed of 4 or 5 people, it becomes a lot more susceptible to just falling apart when 1 or 2 people move away, you know, especially if your venue person has to move, then it's just, the game group dies. So, I mean, yeah, it's like if there isn't a public game night in a game store, there definitely is a better chance of that game night continually having an influx of new gamers, and, so that way it will weather the blows of, having a falling out in the midst of the group. There will be people that can still carry it on. And yeah, I mean, like the Ames, Iowa area pulls from a much smaller group. There's in general, there's other population centers that are within driving distance for many people, to where like it's not really even the mecca of central Iowa. And that's, it's not even the gaming, So it's like, if we were to do an advertisement for our group, it's like
in Iowa.
The second largest board game meetup in central Iowa. That right there, we should get that all printed on our shirts.
We're number 2.
Yes, we are number 2 in central Iowa. There very well could be other larger groups in Iowa than us. Well, we know there's at least one that's in central Iowa, but we are pretty confident in saying that we are number 2.
Oh, yes. Didn't I tell you? Oh, I don't know if I did. When we had Luke on a while back, we did a...
Luke is from Saskatchewan.
Saskatoon, I think it was.
Saskatoon.
Yeah, he was talking about how it's like a mid-ish small city, and like the population of his city is greater than the capital of our state.
Yep. So when all the cubes were falling on the map in the game of not Chicago Express, the other Paris Connection.
Yeah.
When you're dropping all the cubes on the map, unfortunately Iowa gets like totally evenly spread, whereas like everywhere else gets like this tower of cubes that just like, for population wise, we're completely evenly, very uniformly distributed, which unfortunately does not make it very good for transportation, and neither does it for gaming, which has a bit of transporting of human beings, a little bit, like back to Andy's job and the logistics of getting human beings from one place to another. Human trafficker Andy, once again, invest in his startup here, getting you gamers to your door for a fee.
Yeah, on Kickstarter 2019. Look for it.
Well, and David's actually he's the first participant, because we had Andy's first customer was in Ogden, Utah. So
that's actually why you had to move. Sorry.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
It all makes sense now.
That's why you're there, dude.
Either that, or I
opened my eyes and saw mountains, and where am I?
Yeah. It's either that, or I got to figure out how to turn corn into like a board gamer. So we got plenty of that.
He wants to make children from corn. So David, always remember, we still have these internet things where we can keep on meeting up and stuff. There's going to be games that are just better played in your group, and we'll, I'll always miss those experiences, but we can still get on the old Tabletopia. We got some Yukata things we can get together. We've already, I think a game of Reef Encounter was planned in our chat here during the live recording. So I mean, these are the types of things that you can do when you got people that are putting themselves out there online. You know, and I'm glad that you've got your own mic now, dude, because this is the start of something. Like I said, Good Board Ugly, Ogden, Utah, satellite. Hearing from David Sanders, everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have to lean over you to talk into the mic now.
Yeah.
Well, that way I could just, like, if you wanted to interrupt me, I could just kind of like push you away, like physically. Like I could just shove your chair. It's like
I'm talking now. Now we can just talk over each other.
That's why I put you on the rolly chair. If I did that, was so that I would be able to shove you during the episode and make sure that, like, you know, this is mine. This is like the old territorial bubble here. You can have it when you can have it, but if it's mine, it's mine.
What's that whisper? Oh, that's David talking from 20 feet away.
Hey, I can always boost your audio in post. So, well, David, good luck with tomorrow. I know that tomorrow's that big day when you're gonna finally get to know the group of the Northern Utah Gamers Guild. We've heard positive things from designer after designer. By that I mean Tim Fowers and Ryan Lockett, who have described having experienced the convention, or not convention, having experienced the game group and knowing people who play there. And, you know, it sounds to me like something that would be a really cool, maybe a system of organization that we could benefit from, because as Trent said, there's a certain sort of, what is it, twice every 3 years. I don't know how to describe that in a single word, but an 18 months revolutionary cycle that the Ames Iowa Board Gamers Club has always suffered from, and maybe we could get a little bit more stability by drawing on some of the systems that they have in place there. It sounds really cool. So I look forward to hearing from you when you've got more to report on that. And now, what are we looking forward to playing? I will get this one kicked off because I'm just going to shill a bunch of stuff here. I'm looking forward to just a bunch of games I've read rule books for that are my Gen Con, like my Gen Con group, and I'm looking forward to doing review videos. So once again, plug for the Silent Coefficient. Please watch my videos. Like I said, come because I asked you, but stay because you like the videos. I'm not saying, you know, like, stick with it if they just ain't for you. But the ones that you can look forward to coming from me are, first of all, one that I am just smitten by, and this is one I think you might enjoy as well, David. It is called Dwar7s Winter. Now, let me spell this. DWAR7S. That's right. The 7S. So there is no E in Dwar7s Winter, and there is no V. Instead of VE, it is a 7. DWAR7S Winter. The second in the series.
Still easier to search on BGG than Neue Highway.
Yep. Still easier to spell when the words separate.
Yeah, but a lot easier to find than, say, the game.
That's so awful. Yes, it's just as bad as doing the nameless geek lists.
Or Raw before they fixed that little algorithm thing, and you would search for it.
Oh, when it would give you like every game that
every
had
game
RA.
that started with RA. Yeah.
No, it's good now. It's good now. So Dwar7s Winter, though, is a frantic, quick. Once you know what you're doing, it's quick. It's a tough system. I would say in the first learning games, you're going to have a lot of the game takes place on cards, and it's just a really cool system of hand management, hand building. You're going to keep on building more to this hand, and you're going to have to choose certain ones that as you add cards, you can only ever take 7, so you sometimes have to leave cards at home. And it's got this cool way of sort of following suit. When somebody plays cards, you can then play all of your cards of that type, and there's 4 different suits. So that on top of a game that is you trying to defend a castle from invading monsters, as well as disasters that are sort of weather-related disasters and other just inconveniences that plague the dwarves in the area. And these are going to pop up on this board. They're going to be like fires that you need to put out. You can lose as a group, so you can all lose, or you can win individually. I've got 2 games of it behind my belt. I just want to keep on playing this game. It's really cool, beautiful miniatures. Everything looks really cool. Other games coming out from me that you'll hear reviews on: Liberatores from Mo Ideas. You'll hear Tulip Bubble, which I just played for the first time. Trent, I know that you have that game, and I loved my first game of it. Spoiler alert. But we'll keep on seeing. You'll keep on seeing more stuff coming from me that will be, you'll definitely be able to keep in touch of what I'm producing if you subscribe to the Good Board Ugly YouTube channel and then follow that playlist, the Silent Coefficient, for my video reviews. That is my hype of Dwar7s Winter, as well as a couple of other ones coming out from Mo Ideas that you might see in the coming week before I actually have kids in my classroom, which will be a week from today. All right. Let's go ahead and discover Lands Unknown, which I'm going to guess is not... Oh, I don't know if it's too soon to make this joke, but I'm already pot committed, so I'm going to say it. Hopefully it's not the looking back over the career of the late, the great Anthony Bourdain.
No.
Oh.
No, it is not. Okay, so...
That's that guy.
Yeah, this is a game from Fantasy Flight Games where it's...
Okay,
the game... Okay.
I'm just trying to...
If you want to start talking about Anthony Bourdain, we can do that.
No, man. I'm already in a very dark spot right now. Sad. I'm getting better. Like, this is happy. This is good. We're moving on with our lives.
Andy had the best reaction. It was hand to forehead. for those of you who are listening and not watching.
Good, the board and the conversation derailing.
Still better than a college professor I had that tried to use the World Trade Center attack to make a political point literally the day after it happened.
Yikes. Yeah.
I nearly saw a college class in a riot situation.
Yeah, people just walk out of that.
No, they were yelling at the teacher. It was bad. Really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy called her a hypocrite.
Yeah. I think that there's some pretty touchy things you should not joke about. Maybe I just did that, but Trent, this game has nothing to do with sadness or depression. It's definitely, from Fantasy Flight, I'm going to guess, not at all related to an intellectual property that they're going to be soon losing the rights to.
No, this game is it's a game that appears to be a fair amount like Robinson Crusoe from everything I've been able to find out about it. Mm-hmm. Except the twist with this one is every single copy of the game is different. Yeah, that's something different. Like, okay, so you have a number of tiles in the box. Every copy of the game will have X number of tiles, but the X tiles that are in each box are different in each box. Like, some of them will have beach tiles, and some of them will have winter tiles, and some of them will have some and some of the other. And
some of them will be balanced, and some of them won't be balanced.
Hard to tell. I don't know whether
I was wondering how do they play test this at all?
I have no idea.
The numbers are balanced.
That's my guess is the numbers are balanced and they've got algorithms in the back end. It's the only way you could even make this work.
Maybe it's how they're using the technology that they're developing for Keyforge in a more tabletop environment.
They've said that. That's some of the things they're doing for Keyforge also go on the line with us. Mm-hmm. So like there's a bunch of characters.
It's just like changing a keyword, right? Or changing a number slightly or something like that.
Yeah, that's how Keyforge has a number of different things going on to make each one unique. This one, it just sounds like your game comes with 40 tiles out of a pool of 200, and there's 100 different adventures, and your copy has 20, and there's like 1,000 different items that they've made, and your copy comes with 50, and there's 20 different scenarios you're made, and your copy comes with 5. Like, that type of thing is what's going on with this, from the way I've understood it. Wow. Now, how all that works as a functional game, I don't know, but I'm intrigued to see how it works. At the very least, I give them credit for trying something ambitious.
Yeah.
Now,
sure, hopefully it doesn't end up like a 504.
Well, 504 was its own interesting deal.
It was an experiment, is all I'm getting. It was an experiment in gaming, just kind of like this is, and we'll see.
Yeah, I feel... And I appreciate experiments. I really do. That's the thing. I like 504 a lot. And I want to see how this turns out. I'm really curious. But what I would really like to see, and this is the problem, is I want to see 2 copies of it side by side and see how different they actually are.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and how different are they? Are they like really... Is it just like slight variations, or does the game really skew different depending on what you have? Well, I don't know. It's not clear yet.
I'm thinking of limitations here, and I would think that if you're doing punch boards, the main limitation would be that, you might have 100 adventurers, but they're all going to be the same, your same laser die, the same die cut tool. Like they're all going to be the same shape. It's just that you might have different things printed on them, and even how that's able to work. I mean, that like there must be some sort of a next level that this is at in terms of manufacturing, because we all know what it's like when somebody puts a decimal in the wrong spot, all your spotter pieces are unusable. But now apparently Fantasy Flight is so in control of their manufacturing process that they can put out a game that is literally unique in every single box, but somehow still playable. Andy, you had a great question that you asked our chat. I'll let you share that with the world.
I said, oh, since it's Fantasy Flight, how many core sets do I need to have?
How would you answer that, Trent?
Well, I'd assume 1 for this one, but in other games, how many core sets of Keyforge are you going to need?
Yeah, core sets. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, this is a collectible board game. This is taking what's either cracking a pack and you're doing it in a large in board game form. So, I mean, theoretically, Andy, to get all 100 adventures, infinitely many core sets, right? Like,
so is this like the anti-legacy game?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, you have to like collect them all and keep them forever instead of destroying them.
It's going to be a collector's all-in nightmare trying to get everything for this game.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
What I wonder is, like, will there be a way that you can literally yank adventures out of other games? I mean, can you pull adventures out of game 1 and put them into game 2? I don't know that. From what I've gotten the impression, actually, is that you're not going to be able to do that. That, like, okay, so, like, this copy is going to have adventures 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then another one's going to have adventures 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but they're going to be different adventures.
Wow. So it's the difference is going to be that, like, you know, you have adventurers that fulfill a certain role, and so when you can't just, like, you know, transport them from game to game. So I guess that makes me a little bit more comfortable about it, because it's like we expect you to buy the game once and play with the pieces we've given you, not like we expect you to try to make this into a collectible thing. But honestly, David, I mean, there's got to be at least somebody who's sitting there like, we came up with the best thing, didn't we? Yeah, this is gonna get all those board gamers finally to start buying all these extra, you know, buying the same game over
4 copies to get all of it, man.
Yeah, you got to keep doing it. And I mean, but at the same time, for anybody who wants to have everything, to have everything about it, just sounds like this is something to not try to even do.
Yeah, when the booster pack is the entire game.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, and to a certain extent, Andy's right in saying that the core sets for the LCGs a lot of times will be like the entire game, that you need at least 3 sets usually to build a competitive deck that you can actually play, you know, without like modified rules that they put in the base set just so you can actually play with the paltry, you know, offering of cards that they've given you.
No, but it does sound like an interesting experiment. It's always kind of nice to see when people try things where it ends up going, you know?
There's many jokes that I've made about it. I'm probably still going to end up getting it because it sounds really interesting.
Yes, that's right. Give it crap, but then ultimately relent at the end.
And what they're going to do with it, at least. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like, David, you might be just one of those folks that likes adventure packs and adventuring games.
Almost like a transition.
Yay. Almost like a transition coming. If you couldn't see it, here it is, slapping you in the side of the head.
Yeah. My hype is the Kickstarter that's ongoing right now for Dungeon Alliance. For those unfamiliar with Dungeon Alliance, it takes like a party of 4. Every player controls a party of 4, and it takes kind of a Mage Knight card system in a way on how you move and fight and do other things. But the cards are very tailored, and your hand are very tailored to the specific adventurers or heroes that you have. In this game, they had before these quests, and the quests were fairly go to a room, do something a certain amount of times, complete the quest, get some experience points. I think they're really latched onto that, and they're expanding it now in this Kickstarter with these adventure packs, and they actually sound really quite interesting to me. You'll put in these story cards, a certain amount of them, in the market row or whatever you want to call it for cards that come out. And when they do come out, you can purchase them with experience points like you would any other card in the game. And then that card will have some flavor text as well as some numbers on the bottom. And so those numbers on the bottom then are the cards that you grab, and you've started this adventure. And so there'll be at least a couple of them, I think, that you put in every game that you play. And there's quite a few of them in each pack, if I remember right. There's like one overarching story, but then there's a bunch of smaller ones that can be in it too. But it sounds like it gives you something more to do than just the quests did. Like there's a purpose, a point, and usually like a boss fight, it sounds like, at the end. So it gives it more reason to be doing these adventures and not just kind of what the game came with.
Very cool, dude. I loved my play. I think I've played it a couple, maybe 3 times, of Dungeon Alliance. Very cool mixture of like adding a composition of a party aspect to and like positioning of multiple pieces to what otherwise does feel like card play that you'd remember from like say Mage Knight. And so I mean you're taking pieces that I enjoy from different games, a party composition kind of like Arcadia Quest, but then you're taking that and laying it onto a very solid foundational system like Mage Knight, and it's just a really cool thing. I wonder who's going to be doing the artwork for the enemies in this game. Great Andrew Parks
you
did a great job designing
all, or just leave it hanging.
Just leave that joke hanging. So the Andrew Parks did a great job designing this game, and I believe that he has family members participating in the artistic offering in this game for specifically the enemies. It is a clear difference between the card art on your hero cards and the card art on enemy cards. And that difference looks like the difference between somebody who did it on a professional computer rig and somebody who made it from colored pencils and maybe crayons. So, but it's
easy to overlook, and there's a great game underneath.
Yes, precisely. I give it crap, and I say that like brutally because it means very little to me. I'm not going to be swayed one way or another by that aspect. I just think it's funny. Yeah. And yes, you can tell the artwork was done. You can tell which of it was done professionally and which of it was done because it needed to be done. And they, like it's expensive to have art made in a game, especially when you've got so many unique cards. There's like 15 unique cards. Well, I guess, what is it, like 4 unique cards for every hero, and there's like 17 heroes. On top of that, there's just a whole slew of extra cards. I mean, the card art in this game had by itself a huge budget. And I can see why that was one way that there was a corner that was cut. And to me, it's the right type of corner to cut because the other things that have been added to the game and the amount of content you get there is just huge. I do not own Dungeon Alliance simply because it is just it's a game that I feel uncomfortable teaching to the people that I would be teaching it to. I'd love to play it with Trent, who has a copy. I'd love to play this game, but it's one that I feel like is almost best enjoyed at lower player counts like Mage Knight. And so for that reason, it's like I do want to play it. It's just, it's a matter of making that happen that seems difficult. I know, Trent, you have the game and you've gotten a chance to play it. Is it one that you're keeping? Has it kept you opening that box back up at all?
Sure has. It's staying in my collection for quite a while, I think.
Do you know much about the adventure packs? Have you checked them out at all, Trent?
I backed it. It sounded pretty much what I know is what you described. So
yeah, it just seems to add a lot more flavor than what there was for the quests that were originally in the base game box. So they're really expanding the narrative on them. So it should make it a lot more interesting from one dungeon crawl to the next, and then you have different stories within. So.
Very cool, dude. Like these adding a non-linear campaign aspect to it, I think that the promise that these look to add, like there's a lot of really cool ideas in the way the cooperative game worked for the base game, but I feel like there's kind of certain almost ideal setups that you as a player need to sort of figure out with which goals is it fun to play with, when you're playing with other goals and whatnot. I think that these adventure packs look like they're going to be a little bit more of a, something to keep you interested in that system, and something where you can open up that and just play that brand new, and it will be kind of made to be an experience, as opposed to the, when you add a variable setup, that can be really cool, but it also kind of takes away from there being much of a story there because it could be anything, right?
And I believe that they're tying it in with the campaign to expand the campaign as well.
Cool.
Because there were campaign rules. I haven't tried the campaign rules whatsoever, but I think they're trying to tie the adventure packs in with the campaign as well and kind of expand that system altogether.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I like to see more being made on this. It looks like the game's already funded for sure. It looks like it's reaching the double, like hitting the 200% funded, and still has a couple of weeks to go. So check that out. From Andrew Parks, Quixotic Games, Dungeon Alliance, second printing with the expansions and specifically the adventure packs. All right, Andy, it's just you now, buddy, isn't it? Or did I? Yeah, it's just Andy now. Save the best for last. That's right. It's the best for last.
Right. Yep. So I'm gonna hype City of the Big Shoulders, which is a game we've talked about as it kind of moves through development. We received kind of a next stage sort of prototype for the game, so there's still some things in flux and changing. I actually read through the rules over the last couple days. I've been emailing the designer back and forth, kind of asking questions about how things work and make sure I'm doing it right. I'm really looking forward to trying this because they've changed the way a few of the systems work, which I don't want to go into too much detail on right now. But basically, I think all of the changes that he's made to it make the game, for the most part, better. Like it's very interesting. It solved a couple of the issues I kind of had with that early prototype as far as the way things kind of worked in different phases and whatnot. So, like one big one, for example, one of the biggest issues I had was that when you do the worker placement aspect of that game, you were supposed to go and starting with one player and go around the table, where you kind of then end up in a benefit by being next to that person, even though you don't have the worst companies or something like that. Where now he put in just a nice little variable turn order thing that kind of works like dominant species or something. So you can pick a certain spot and move upward in the turn order, that kind of thing.
Very cool.
So that just solves that kind of issue. And then there's just some combining of some of the extraneous mechanisms into one thing. So it's a little bit neater of a package, works a little bit better. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to giving it another try and see how it goes now, because the main bones of the games are still there in that it's kind of a worker placement crossed with an 18xx game. All of that's still there, but just some of the mechanisms have been shifted around and changed and kind of incorporated into other things, I think, to the benefit of the game overall. But I'd like to play it and see for sure. So I'm just excited to give that another shot. And then the artwork is a billion times better than the early prototype.
Well, it's finished as opposed to the working. I didn't think it looked bad from before, but now it just looks really nice, like that sort of sepia toned old antique map looking board. It's really cool looking.
My guess is that kind of artwork is fairly finalized, although specifics are kind of rough, because me being a crazed P&P'er, of course, got all the paper stuff and immediately started laminating everything. And then I emailed the designer about something. He's like, "Oh, those don't exist on the final charters anymore." And I'm like, so yeah, break out the Sharpie, cross them out.
Yeah, that's what you're doing at this point.
Why am I bothering doing all of this work? But everything's already laminated into sheets, so it's cut it out now. Is what I got to do either way. So whatever.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to get this one played as well.
Yeah, it's neat to just see how things have. It's always kind of fun to just see the game design process, like how people start from something and go on to something else, or kind of how something evolves over time and kind of why it went that way. I'm just that person. I like to know why and how everything works behind the scenes. And there's places that if you try to do that, they threaten to arrest you. So game design is much safer.
Yes, I would love to just see you from the inside, Andy.
No, it's more if you're can I? Yeah, casino. I want to go to the money counting room. I just want to see how that works. They really frown on that. I'm just saying.
let me just take this top of your skull off. I want to see how this brain works that you've got here.
Oh, that's why I became a teacher. They're basically experimental test subjects.
Oh, rest easy, listeners. Andy's not teaching this year. Well, I am tomorrow, man, and it is getting about that time for this episode to be at a close, so that we can send me back to work, so that I can support myself and be able to keep doing this wonderful hobby of tabletop. David, good luck tomorrow for yourself. You have a new you're embarking on a new journey to the NUG tomorrow, the Northern Utah Gamer School. Good luck in that, and thanks for joining us here on your first time as Good Board Ugly West. Oh, no. Good Board Ugly Mountain. Sorry, we already have a Good Board Ugly West.
Good Board Ugly almost West.
Almost West.
It's the near West. We have the Good Board Ugly Midwest. We have the Good Board Ugly Mountain West. I don't know, man. We're still it's still in works. Like working title. Good Board Ugly working title in Ogden, Utah. Thank you for joining us, David Sandquist.
Thank you.
Trent, Andy, it's been good, man. Yeah, it's been good, both of you guys. Trent and Andy, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Great times. I will enjoy not waking up to an alarm tomorrow.
You know what? This isn't the end, Andy. That's all I got right now. That's what I have. It is the end of this episode, though.
Trent and I are like shipping our kids off Thursday and then meeting up to play Conflict of Heroes while they're in school.
Yep.
Perfect. That's a sweet thing to do. Yeah. Well, I will just do better stuff than that with my students, my high school students, that I can't wait to get all of my favorite games played with them, because I'll be able to have high school students and you won't, Andy. And I'm just making this sound worse. So
yeah, Joe's gonna somehow like make Euro games. Like, we're gonna translate Euro games into Spanish, kids, but we have to play them first so we know how to translate it correctly. That's the way he's gonna sneak it all.
That's right. Yeah, I'm just gonna get a whole bunch of Euro game copies in Spanish, and then I can just teach all these kids. But my entire routine is I just have a game, and I'm just like, okay, we're gonna figure this out, but we're only doing it in Spanish. It's gonna be awesome. Can't wait for Gamers Club, and I got my Gamers Club kid here.
How do you say word for sheep in Spanish? That's
Ignore that, and ignore that. He's not a teacher anymore. Carter, I can't wait to get Gamers Club started so that we can get. So there's been a lot of games that I've learned about, and a lot of games that maybe I've been kind of waiting for the opportunity to play with our Gamers Club at school. So looking forward to that. That should be probably not the first day of school, because the first day of school will be the normal day for Gamers Club, but we'll probably get it going as soon as we can after that. So anyway, hope you all have a great week of gaming, and catch us next week on The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly.